Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back with a Hong Kong content review, diving into some more Jackie Chan goodness for you guys. And so is 88 Films, releasing brand new 4K editions, going back for their entire back catalogue of all the ones they recently have done on Blu-ray, all the way from now Heart of Dragon, which has recently been announced for September release, and they've been pumping out basically a Jackie Chan 4K pretty much this entire year. I think maybe one or two within a couple of months of each other, and recently they've dropped two, landed in our doorstep for Crime Story and Armor of God 2, which are the two big ones from his career, and obviously they've got more on the way as well. There's only a couple more left, unless they start doing like Shallow Wooderman or Fearless Hyena. Who knows, they might do. Depending on how you feel about new 4K restorations, whether you're happy with the original Blu-ray, whether you own a 4K player, I definitely think these prices and the editions themselves are definitely worth the pick up. This is about £30 in the UK, and from this you do get a brand new 4K transfer, which Crime Story looks fantastic, looks really goddamn good, much bigger improvement over the Blu-ray that was originally released. And you do get brand new artwork, which is really stunning, really fantastic, and I really love all these hardback. And you do get, of course, the edition with the poster there, and you do get a much thicker booklet with all the essays, and you do get the poster as well. So you do get a really cool, snazzy edition. And if you're a big Jackie Chan fan like myself and love the films that he's involved in, it's definitely worth the pickup, depending on the film, depending on the transfer, if you think it's worth the upgrade, and depending if you own it or not as well. I do own a lot of the bulk editions already. Whether I get all of them, depending on the film. It always depends on the film. But Crime Story was an absolute definite in terms of a 4K transfer, because it is a very colourful film, as already presented by there in terms of the purples and the blues. It's a very kind of stylized movie. Definitely worth that kind of new HDR transfer and upgrade boost for sure, and obviously diving into some previous extras. It looks like 88 Films are not slowing down on this 4K restoration train from Jackie Chan. Let's see how far they go with it. And obviously Eureka have already done some already. It'd be cool to get a Eureka 4K for Wheels on Wheels and some of their other titles, depending if they think it's going to sell well. I have seen a lot of the Jackie Chan films back when I first got into Hong Kong cinema back in COVID. So I did watch a massive string of them, thanks to Eureka and 88 Films pumping them out during that time. And some of them I'll come back to the second or third time. This is the second time watching Crime Story. I haven't watched this in such a very, very long time, since originally owning the Blu-ray and watching it back quite some time ago, many years ago now. So it's great to watch this again on the new 4K transfer, and just to kind of like, wow, get a breath of fresh air. Just, you know, thoroughly impressed with his kind of filmography in terms of this time into the 90s. And this is Crime Stories 1993. This is directed by Kurt Wong, which I'm not really familiar with his filmography. I know he did an American film called The Big Hit, which I know is one of his more famous films, but he has done a few other Hong Kong movies, but very limited selection of his own kind of directing history, essentially. This is quite an unusual project for Jackie Chan for many different reasons. Quite an unusual film. I think it comes down to three major things in terms of what this film's kind of going for, and you're probably already aware for Jackie Chan enthusiasts, but for people that maybe are a little bit on the fence, not too sure about this film, or they want to see, well, what's Crime Story about? What makes it different compared to a typical Jackie Chan film? Well, one, this film is based on a true story. It's based on a real-life kidnapping back in actual Hong Kong, and a little bit of a wish fulfillment in terms of the kind of the conclusion of this film. The real-life backstory and the true kind of crime of it happened in terms of this kidnapping is a lot more tragic and darker than the film actually is. You know, it's the stuff that was happening in the film, but of course the ending of this was the request of the wife, basically saying that I wish I could have found him, I wish I could have saved him, or there could have been something there to kind of get it done, but unfortunately it didn't happen in real life. It's a little bit of a wish fulfillment in terms of the ending, but it's a real dark story. It's a real kind of very category free, and I think it actually is category free, I believe, in terms of the affiliation with the gang violence and kind of the tryouts and all that kind of stuff. So I think there is some of that harder edge kind of to it, which makes it quite different for Jackie Chan. As mentioned before, within talking about some of the previous films, like The Protector, for instance, that was him doing an American kind of Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry, kind of, you know, a very anti-PC kind of cop, something a little different, but that was just on the kind of his early portion of his career as, you know, Police Stories on the Corner. This was towards the end of his kind of Hong Kong reign for a little while. After this film in 1993, he would go off and do Rumble in the Bronx, released in 1995, and then of course later do Rush Hour, which he would obviously go to have a little bit of American success and do his usual kind of character that he would do. But this is quite a different role for him and quite challenging in terms of his usual personas. Second fact about this film, this was originally meant to be for Jet Li, which I think a lot of people do know that. He dropped out because of behind-the-scenes tensions with the tryouts, which, if I'm not mistaken, did actually murder or kill his agent. It's all in the book. Let's all kind of dive into what actually is behind the scenes and what happened between the real-life story and what happened with Jet Li and how Jackie Chan got involved in this. But he dropped out because of just the fear of the film, essentially. And I don't know what Jackie Chan did to cool things off, but clearly he was the guy to do it and come in and basically take a little bit of ownership of the film and to do it in a certain way. So I'm not too sure what the full extent with the Jet Li situation was, but I know it was scary enough for him to basically back out of the film, which caused us alter what the film was trying to go for in terms of the action, the stunts, and what the usual Jackie Chan vehicle would be isn't. It is here, but it is done in a very different shade of kind of blue compared to what he usually would do. And 3, as mentioned, this is a category 3. This is a very dark, very kind of violent movie. It's an 18 rated still in the UK, and it's definitely going for something quite different. As obviously it's based on a true story, as already alluded to, and this is a much darker kind of material, and Jackie's playing not his usual type. He's definitely playing a much more harder edge cop. Obviously he's getting a little bit pissed off and very much angry in terms of the kind of corruption, thanks to another kind of internal kind of cop that is from the CID, which is basically kind of running this kind of shadow kind of group, brotherhood group that's kind of organized this kind of kidnapping and ransom, and he's basically hot on the tail and he's no nonsense getting things done, and leads to some pretty dark kind of moments. The style of the film, I think, is really fantastic and real gorgeous to watch. The location chooses between going from Hong Kong to Taiwan. The building internal structures, I think, are absolutely fantastic, and it's got that kind of very category 3, very kind of horror-esque kind of edge to it, and especially towards the middle act of the film when it starts to get a bit more kind of darkly lit, and the sweat, the violence, and the kind of fighting, gunplay, knife work. There is quite a bit of an edge to this film, and it's definitely packs a bit more of a punch for sure. Jackie is constantly getting injured and throughout this film in terms of some amazing kind of stunt work and car chase work, and constantly having blood all over his face, and it's just a very gritty kind of crime movie, which really intense, really fun to watch, and something quite different for Jackie Chan's usually go-friendly kind of attitude and personas he usually just play. This was not too long after doing Armor of God 2, which is actually quite appropriate, releasing both of these films in 4K and roughly the same time. Obviously Armor of God was his directing work and a big kind of magnum opus, and this was done I think not too long after, I believe, and this didn't do as well but did okay in the box office, and then later on to go to America. So what a movie to kind of exit fucking Hong Kong for a little bit, and obviously with 1997's kind of takeover coming up, a lot was going on. This is a very impactful film for many different reasons in terms of the real life kidnapping, Jackie Chan's career up to this point, and the kind of material that's been presented here is definitely something quite unusual that you wouldn't usually see. But we get some fantastic action set pieces for car chase stunts, action, kind of hand-to-hand combat, gunplay work, knives, some really cool kind of action moments in terms of the raffle holding and the kind of, especially the second act going into the third act when they have this giant building and essentially got permission to demolition it at the end of the film, which is fantastic. So you get actual real sense of an abandoned building that's crumbling and they can set actual fire to it, and it gets really kind of gritty and dicey and very edgy in terms of Jackie Chan's kind of pursuit. And there's some fantastic shots of him just kind of running on the street with loads of people behind him. It looks really awesome, and it feels very impactful, and feels like Jackie Chan's leading the charge. He's going after them, he's getting it done, and there's some interesting kind of directions the film does take in. And something that's quite interesting as well in terms of the booklet and the behind the scenes is that there was quite a few deleted scenes, and there was some plot lines that didn't go anywhere actually, or were deleted from the film, in terms of the therapist, which was established at the start of the film, that leads to absolutely nowhere. And there's some other alternative moments and choices later on in the film that were altered and changed, down to one, the wife's request, and two, the direction where they wanted to go to the film ultimately. So quite interesting kind of behind the scenes drama, and obviously the stuff with Jet Li is mentioned as well in terms of Jackie Chan's career. So quite an impactful film They didn't do massively well in the box office, but did do well receptionally in terms of critics and awards, and the fan base obviously loves this film as well. I think this is an absolute brilliant film for Jackie Chan, and definitely one of my favorites for sure. So what are your thoughts and opinions on Crime Story? Please comment down below. What are your thoughts on Jackie Chan's career for these kind of mid-90s kind of range, in the sense there's some quite interesting kind of directing and kind of starring based and American based kind of work. So very interesting time for Jackie Chan. So what are your thoughts on that? Please comment down below. What do you think they're going to do next in terms of, Jackie Chan's kind of, 4K restoration kind of lineup? We'll love to know your thoughts and opinions. Please comment down below. So in the meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.